Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down.
It has been long overdue to expose the truth that the Democrats and Republicans are sucking the life out of America's liberty and usurping our rights at every turn. Now is the time to seize our civil liberties and take back our individual rights. Here on Southern Liberty, we will expose it all. With his musket on his back, the Declaration of Independence in one hand, and the Constitution in the other, here's your host, Roderick Threets.
Hey, happy Tuesday to the Liberty Defending family, and welcome to our latest installment of the experience today with my lovely and beautiful and extra smarter than me co-host, Miss Valerie Zen. Good evening, ma'am. How are the things?
Things are good. Things are interesting. It's Copper's first birthday today, so we've been celebrating with dog toys and bones, but that's beside the point.
Oh, boy.
These are the things you do when
Bow
you're
Wow.
going crazy.
Spoiled
he's
Bow
bad. Yeah, he's spoiled all right. That's for sure.
Spoiled Bow
Yeah,
Wows in
you
the
know, they
house.
give you those cute eyes. It's just like a man and a woman, you know? They give you that cute look, and you just, yeah. It's the same game. It's a game.
Yeah, it is a game. It's a fun game.
I hope it's all a game, right? I mean, this optimism and pessimism. I mean, it's like everything, every day. Well, first of all, I don't think pessimism anymore is negative. I don't think it's negative, you know? I mean, people will often say, oh, well, you're so pessimistic. Oh, what? No. You're so optimistic, you're out of your mind, right?
Right. Yeah. If you're too optimistic or too pessimistic, then you are blinded by what could or could not, right? And that's why I like to bring, when we have these conversations about optimism and pessimism, I got to bring pragmatism into it, because you need a little bit of both to be pragmatic, right?
Because realistic, exactly. Right. How do you get to the middle? You have to listen to the worst case scenario, and you have to listen to the best case scenario. Correct. And then you have to meet it in the middle, right?
That's correct.
And then you have to utilize that thing called critical thinking in order to put it together however you put it together.
Right.
You know, it's interesting because I was reading some psychological studies today, and it's actually fascinating because people who are optimists think through their pattern, and people who are more pessimists think through their pattern, and they may both actually come to the same conclusion. It's just a different wiring in the brain. I don't know if it has to do with hormones or nutrition or your DNA, but you really can get to the same place being either way if you utilize critical thinking.
Right.
So it's not necessarily positive or negative to be optimistic or pessimistic. But, you know, it's very hard these days. It's very hard because you really can't categorize yourself in the environment that we're living in this moment. You know, some days we feel really hopeful, and some days we feel hopeless. It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah,
we're human. Right?
You're right, and I know for me especially, you know me doing this 4 days a week. I can for some people I can get very, very dark because, you know, I'm in these rabbit holes watching the sinister stuff happen, right? But the optimistic side of all that is I bring all that information and that insight that I found to everybody. They're like, hey, this is that, right? And we finally get to a point where for me, at least for me, right? I can only speak for me. Yeah. That I have to find. I'm finding that balance again. Right.
Exactly.
I'm finding that balance again because, you know, when you're a what they would call a do-gooder, right? You want to find you want to correct everything that's extremely bad instead of the things that are just a little bit on the bad side. You want to go right to the extreme and try to fix that problem, right? It's called
perfectionism. That's called perfectionism,
right? I mean, it's kind of like that man that's always trying to fix what a woman's problem is, right? That's kind of how I feel when it comes to these extreme things that happen in society. I'm that guy that's like, we can't let that happen. We gotta fix that part. Instead of like, okay, that little part, that's extreme. That's probably once or twice or 3 times or 4 times a lifetime. Okay. But it's not happening like this 100-time occurrence a year that I'm ignoring or walking past, right? That gets to that level where those 4 or 5 different things in a lifetime. If I can fix the 100, right? If I can fix the 100, the other 4 may not happen. The 4 might be mitigated to 1.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of where I'm trying to get back to, is that I need to solve what I see in front of me that's causing that part. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. With a bit of pragmatism, right? Critical thinking, and go about it that route.
Yeah. And sometimes you just have to slow down to say, okay, I'm going to take one thing at a time. Because if you start looking at everything, you just go nuts. You just can't. It's too much. The way things are unraveling in front of us, you know, this is what I call an accelerated rate. You know, every day we're like going, whoa, you know, this is just too much. So like I just choose this slowing down critical path. It puts me into that, you know, realistic category we're just talking about. But like we said, you have to go first to the left, then to the right, not necessarily political. I'm not talking about that, but you have to look at what's the worst case scenario and then what's the best possible outcome and say, okay, what are the possibilities here? And then you just bring yourself to a place of balance, at least for 5 minutes. I mean, reality is it's very hard to call yourself balanced these days. In fact, I would say it's impossible. And anybody that comes down that hard on themselves, that's not good either. You gotta give yourself a pat on the back every day, getting through this garbage that we're living in right now. It's hard stuff. It's not easy for anyone. Well, no, actually, I'm going to take that back. It is easy for people who don't pay attention to anything. And I know some of them. They just, and even if they think they're paying attention, what are they paying attention to?
Right.
Media blackout. The media is telling them what to think. So they're like, oh, well, Joe Biden just told me that the financial situation is looking real good.
That quick?
Yes. So it's easier for you to just say, oh, okay, the big guy just said it's all good, so, you know, I'm going to go with it because I'm choosing to say as optimistic because that's what feels good to me.
Right.
It's almost like a drug. You know, I see it almost as a drug because when I talk to these liberal Nazis, and I swore I was going to call them Nazis from now on because if you're not paying attention and you're silent, then you will be a Nazi soldier. You will be a slave, just like in Germany in World War II. So I don't have any problem calling it that. That's just my interpretation of, you know, where we are. So, you know, what I have found is an awful lot of people, I'm sure you've experienced this, Rod, and many of our listeners have been attacked by people on the right saying, where did you hear that? That's one of my favorites. Where did you hear that? If you tell them where you heard something, they start looking it up and they think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Now, I never asked them, where did you hear that? Because I know exactly where they heard it. Turn on the black television. I mean, there's nothing on the screen. You may as well not turn it on, because if you're hearing all lies, I don't need to ask you why you're not hearing what I'm hearing.
Right.
I could try telling you where I'm hearing things, but you probably won't listen, or you'll think I'm crazy.
Right. But again, right, that I know in a kind of way avoiding that, but it's I have to apply the optimism, pessimism, pragmatism bit here to the current situation that's coming out of Nashville, right? It's funny, right? It's funny how, right, conservatives and Republicans are calling the transgender community, oh, you have this mental illness, you're trans, right? Now they're sitting here talking about we need to keep guns, right, out of transgenders' hands. And I'm like, transgenders, regardless of how you believe they are, still do they not have the natural right to defense, to self-defense? Do they not? Does the Second Amendment, are they excluded from the Second Amendment because they're trans? Because I remember conservatives and Republicans making the same argument for people with depression. Now, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this and I'm like, we can't do this. I said, y'all can't do this. You can't sit here and harp about we can't take away guns because of someone's mental condition, because the Democrats said we need to do that. But then you turn around and y'all already said that transgenderism is a mental disorder. And now they're talking about taking that guy, that person that shot that school up should have never had a gun in the first place. And I'm like, you hear the hypocrisy coming out of both sides of your neck?
Well,
when you're saying Rod, this,
I could go somewhere slightly different with this. I think we have a mental illness problem in this country.
100%.
And I would ask the question: do people go? I don't know. I guess we don't have enough mental institutions, but let's assume that we did. Let's assume there were thousands and thousands of people in each state that were officially mentally ill and put into these mental institutions. Mm-hmm. And we can also look at the criminal justice system, like jail. You've been accused of being a murderer. Let's put them both together for a moment. Should we allow mentally ill people to have guns? It's a general question. I would say no to that, personally. I don't think someone who's imbalanced and out of their minds to legally have a gun. However, people that are out of their minds are going to go to the underground market and get their guns.
Right.
The drug cartels, the criminals, they're all going to get their guns anyway.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
And that's a point that most liberal idiots just do not see.
Right.
And I remember having this argument years ago with people. They were, they have the gun in the yoga studio. I'm like, guys, the front door to this goddamn yoga studio is wide open. Do you think anybody can't walk in and kill you who is a criminal? The criminals will always get guns. You have to hit them over the head with a bat for them to understand that minuscule concept. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't matter. These people are arguing a point. No, it's Henry Second Amendment. We got to get these guns. Listen, anybody with half a brain, look at history. First, they take away the guns. This is part of a plan. This has nothing to do with gay, tranny, criminal, mentally ill, what age you are. It's just moot. You know, I was listening to Dan Bongino for just a few moments today, and he said, you know, when you've been in Secret Service and a criminal, he was a cop. He said, the one thing you never do when you're at a brand new scene of a murder is try to figure out what happened.
Right.
He said, look at this Nashville case. All of a sudden, oh, it was an 18-year-old teenager, and it was they were all wrong.
Yep.
All wrong.
All wrong. Yep.
Fire up. Let's get them all crazy from this now, because we got to get the guns away.
Yep. That's it.
That's it. That's it.
And that goes back to my point, right? Or that I was making, that now that conservatives, a lot of so-called conservatives, are picking up the Democrat status talking points when it comes to guns. Mm-hmm. This is the gateway to them taking them. This is the gateway, right? And a lot of our conservative cousins are like, well, no, because as I said, we got to stop. Because if you say you know what I'm saying? If you say, right, let's say, for example, they ban guns from people that are mentally disturbed, right? Right. Now, if we do that, who are they? Who's going to protect them from harm?
Yeah. Right now, nobody's protected.
No one is protected, and you can expect the government to do so, because I mean, look, they unleashed COVID-19 on the country. You people want to trust the government to protect us?
No,
but
what a joke,
right? But that's an argument. That part of the argument we have to figure out. Or the government is going to say, well, we're just going to ban it for everybody that's been that's taking, right? Watch this. If you're taking any type of psychotropic or SSRI medicine, you cannot have a gun. Right. That's where it will go. And then what?
And so many people are.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many people are taking a Zoloft. They're you know what I mean? Yeah. They're taking a Celexa. Right?
That's right.
They're going to ban you from having a gun until you're off that medicine. And even then, after that, you got to wait for the chemical balance to kick back in naturally. So you're waiting another 2 months, 3 months for that to naturally recreate itself. Right?
Yeah, but look at how brilliant they tied in the Christian religion with this shooting.
Mm-hmm.
See, this was massive, actually, when you look at it. They went and not only to a Christian school, but they utilized the form of mental disability to be aligned with Christianity. I mean, this is really a massive plot here.
Yes.
Let's do in a transvestite, mentally ill Christian gun holder.
Yeah. They just added in the right, because remember, they just added in the Christian element, right? Because remember, right?
That's right.
If we go back to November, right? It was a non-binary shooter, and that community was like, he couldn't be non-binary. We don't act like that. Well, I'm sorry, people are people, and people will act accordingly. So don't try to play that game, right? Don't play with me, right? Now, if we go back to Uvalde, here's where the striking semblances come from, right? And this is me, y'all, being a pragmatist here, right? That young kid, right, was a cross-dresser. I don't know if he actually identified as transgender, but he was a cross-dresser. The videos were on Instagram. They're probably out there in the ether somewhere. You can probably get them, right? He had just bought a cache of firearms 2 days prior to him doing this. Well, this shooter did almost literally the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Critical thinking tells me somebody's pulling a string.
Oh, yeah. You know, they also, something else interesting came out today about that one of the reporters that showed up on the scene at the Nashville shooting was also the same reporter that showed up a short time after one of the other shootings.
Oh,
now,
for real?
Yep. And I think that it's been noted that there are some people in the audiences of similar shootings that have been present. This is just getting too remarkable. And, it's like the government doesn't care anymore. They don't care anymore that we see this. It's all out in the open. It's flying all over the place.
You know what it is, Ms. Val? Here's the thing. What? People have given them the green light to do it wide open because they have taught people to keep their head in the sand. No. There's nothing going on over here, right? Even because back in the day, right, we all used to point that crap out. What are y'all doing? Now they got these people so blindfolded and distracted by quote unquote TikTok and Rick Talk and whatever talky talk, Twitter talk, whatever you want to do, right? They got their heads in the sand.
Going to jail. Right.
Yeah, Trump's going to jail, and then now they're just like, we can just blatantly put this out on Front Street. Ain't nobody's going to think different. And I'm like, us critical thinkers, we see the whole thing go down, and we see the pattern. You can't fool us. But you got them thinking that we're conspiracy theorists for holding government accountable, because that's basically what conspiracy theorist means. You're holding government accountable. You're a conspiracy theorist. Government would never hurt us.
Oh, that's not. No, they're not. No, they're not really doing that. No, Joe Biden, the Clintons. That's a loving foundation. What are you talking about? They pay off their families and no. You may as well just walk out the door. I mean, listen. There's so much happening right now. I think we are going to see some incredible stuff in the next few months.
We're gonna see some. We're gonna see some massive and major exposure. It's going to be happening.
Yesterday, I think DeSantis did this civil rights speech. I don't know if you saw it or saw pictures
I saw it. Yep, I saw it.
You saw it. So what the NAACP said, they're putting out a travel advisory to the state of Florida. And, first of all, I'm not sure that DeSantis realizes he can't really handle all of this. This is going to be a lot. And somebody said, people in Florida, you better lock and load those guns now. Because if they have the race card that they're pushing in the state of Florida, travel advisory. We might be in BFT. This could start a whole new charge, And I listened to some of the people they were interviewing on the side, like outside, whatever. And these people are seriously, can I use the word mentally ill?
Yes, you sure can.
The brainwashing. They've been so brainwashed to a point where they believe we need reparations in every state of the United States. And if this governor is going to stand up and say, this is all bullshit and I don't want to waste my time with this, we're going to get him. Not really what I'm looking forward to seeing. This is just going to take off in many different scary directions. And we just, once again, we have to be prepared. It's like I have friends that say to me, oh, you think the stock market is going to crash? Why do you think that? Well, I'm not going to tell you why I think it. I'm just going to tell you I think it. Well, I have my whole retirement in the stock market. Mm-hmm. Well, you might consider diversifying and stocking up in food. What are you, crazy? I go to the market, there's food all the time. What are you talking about? I went into Sprouts the other day, Friday. Fridays, they're always stocked up. They're stocked up for the next 3 days because that's the last day of their deliveries. There were more empty shelves than I've ever seen in the 2 years I'm living here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were trying to fill in, to make it look there was something on the. Yeah.
You know what? I want to go there. I'm going to go there.
Okay.
I'm going to stay in the same paradigm though, right? I'm going to stay inside the guardrails that we have here.
Okay.
Right? Because you brought up the travel ban, right?
Yeah.
Now, and mind you, right? This is Florida chapters of the NAACP that are saying that the governor's policies are impacting people of color. So here we go, right? Mm-hmm. See, this is what optimism, pessimism, and pragmatism does for you, right? We know the NAACP stands for what? The National Advancement, right? For African and colored people, right? Right. Colored people. Then they went to being called black to African American, and now we're back to being called colored people, aka people of color. Y'all have heard me say many times, like, people got to get away from calling themselves black or white or any of that because it's not real. It's not a real thing.
Nope.
Right? Now, for these people, right, to sit here and say the governor's policies are impacting people of color like they have an agenda to push, I'm sorry, watch this. The so-called, right, the so-called black community, so-called colored people community, so-called Negro community, right, have blinders on trying to look at a rearview mirror. Because if they didn't know already, right, the agenda for quote unquote so-called black people in America has been transferred to the transgendered people. Why do you think BLM gave majority of their money to Democrats and the transgender movement? Now, we're going to keep it Woodrow up in here, right? My mind is telling me they don't care about you no more, period. And it ain't the team you think is not caring about you. It's your own squad. You are a cash cow for these Democrats. And they haven't realized yet we're going to point at the Republicans because the Democrats said DeSantis' policy is against people of color. When did you become people of color again? I thought you were black. I thought you were so-called Negro.
I thought it didn't make a difference. Hey, Joe Biden says it makes a difference because he's got to have an Indian, he's got to have a black, he's got to have a transvestite, he's got to have a lesbian, he's got to have a. Look at this government with all of its different colors, religion, races, and nobody knows what the fuck they're doing.
Hey, look, hey, Ms. Val.
Hired idiots.
Ms. Val, watch this.
Yeah.
How many people, watch this, how many people in his administration are actually so-called black? I want you to count them for me.
Well, the speaker, right? The press secretary. I don't know. I haven't. I don't even think about it. She's just on the front row seat, so you always see her. She's spewing the
propaganda. She's the propaganda. She's the propaganda.
Yeah.
She's the propaganda that's standing to me. Watch this. Watch this. Out of his whole cabinet, right? His whole cabinet. Watch this.
Yeah.
His OMB director, right?
Yeah.
No. Let me take that back. No, the OMB director is not a cabinet position. My bad. So let's see. I'm looking. Hold on. I'm looking. Let's see. Michael Regan. He's the EPA administrator, right?
Okay.
Watch this. Marsha Fudge.
Okay.
Lloyd Austin.
Yeah.
Right? And Kamala Harris. How many people did I just name? 4, right? I just named 4 people, right?
Yeah.
Right? How many cabinet positions are there?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure there's more white people.
That's my point. Right? That's my point. You have these people standing up. Yeah, we're going to do things right for so-called black people. And they don't, Biden hasn't even put any of them in a cabinet position, nominated for a cabinet position. Right?
Right. Well, Harris is not a cabinet; she's a VP. But and they did put in a justice, right? A Supreme Court justice. I mean, he tries to just tip off what he needs to do, just a little piece at a time to quell people's upset.
Right.
I mean, come on. They're all a bunch of racists, and we know it.
Yeah, right. Flat out. Flat out.
Mm-hmm. Nothing else to see here.
Yeah. So yeah. There is 15 executive department positions. Technically it's 16 because the office of the vice president is part of the cabinet. That per the Constitution, that is part of the cabinet, right? Now.
Okay. Yep.
Right. So we have, like I say, we have 16, and 4 of them are so-called black, quote unquote.
So-called, yeah.
Right. But we're down for diversity, inclusion, and equity, right?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
We sign papers. Mm-hmm. We're going to be more ethnically aware. We're going to make sure our cabinet is from the white shade of crayon to the black shade of crayon. We're going to make sure we make it happen. I think you, Joe Byron, I think you fucked that up.
Yeah. Listen, just lie down, take a few deep breaths, and let the poison work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just be quiet and let the poison work.
Right, that's my point, Ms. Val. Right, and we sit here as pragmatists and we call this out, and we're called everything but a child of God, right? We call it everything but a child of God because it's like, look at what they're doing. They're repeating history, but they're not teaching you history because they're trying to tell you we need to teach you CRT, right? We need to teach you that kind of history. Because the rest of it doesn't matter. It matters how you're being treated today. Well, if you can't put the historical context in contrast and bring it forward properly, your CRT crap is not going to work. But just CRT,
that's because the founding fathers were racist. Didn't you know that? And everything they wrote was racist. They were all white men. Please. I can't listen to this shit anymore. I can't hear it anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It is literally crazy, but and this is where and unfortunately this is the realm where all of us are victim. We fall into the pessimistic side of things on this, right? Instead of looking at the optimism, right? Right.
Yeah.
And we have to look at this situation from what they're giving us, what they're trying to force feed us is just they're exposing themselves more and more. And we just keep saying, hey, this is what is happening. This is what's going down. And I'm glad that you are exposing yourself. Mm-hmm. So we have a point of reference.
You know what Dave says on X-22? Never interrupt an enemy when they're in the middle of destroying themselves.
Ain't that the truth?
It is the truth. I love that. I love that statement. Love it. Don't interrupt them. They're doing a good job.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. Yeah. Digital currency, going after our political enemies. Yeah.
It's the Biden blowjob. I call it the Biden blowjob.
Wow.
That's how I see it. That's it. There's the picture. There's the image for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
What's her name blinking at us? Oh, what's the question?
Let me ask you a question. Why? So. You know what I do? Know what I need to do?
What?
I need to play an audio when we come back from break. Okay, and then I'm going to ask my question.
Okay.
All right. So y'all know what to do. We got to do the bill to pay thing. So make sure y'all are hanging out here for a minute. Well, 6 minutes. Get your cheese, wine, and crackers, and we'll be back here on Southern Liberty.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
The major averages ending lower, with tech stocks leading the charge, dented by rising bond yields. In the meantime, the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature was in the spotlight, with three top banking regulators facing questions about their oversight of the failed lenders on Capitol Hill. The Dow falling 38 points, the Nasdaq down 53, S&P 500 down 6. And Lululemon Athletica stock is surging in after-hours trading after the sportswear retailer beat earnings expectations and issued better than expected guidance. And memory chip maker Micron Technology reported sales plunged over 50% in its latest quarter. Micron also said that as part of its cost reduction, it will reduce staff by about 15%. And Cal-Maine Foods, which is the biggest producer and distributor of fresh shell eggs in the U.S., said its profits surged in the third quarter as the average selling price for a dozen eggs more than doubled. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
The all-new Chevy Colorado is made for more. Stacked with the latest in-vehicle technologies like a class-leading 11-inch diagonal center touchscreen and an extra-large wireless charging pad. Plus, it features wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to make staying connected easy wherever your adventure takes you. Chevy Colorado, made for more. Learn more at Chevrolet.com/truck/Colorado. Claims based on latest competitive data.
To make sense of it. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The parents of the suspect in yesterday's deadly shooting at a Christian school in Nashville are said to be struggling with the outcome.
Audrey Hale's parents say they knew she owned one gun and believed it had been sold. Learning others were apparently hidden from them, including the ones used in the attack that killed 6 people before their child was killed, has devastated them. Nashville Police Chief John Drake says he talked to them.
They're trying to decompress, trying to make sense of all of this. I talked to President Biden. He's going to reach out and talk to them as well.
Hale had been dealing with mental health issues prior to the deadly attack on the school Monday. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
The Huntsville, Alabama Police Department says 2 officers have been shot and have life-threatening injuries after they responded to a report of a shooting at an apartment complex. The suspect, who was barricaded inside an apartment, is now in custody. The cleanup continues along the Mississippi Delta after tornadoes roared through Friday night.
We're now on day 4, and we're beginning to see more and more recovery activity taking place.
Governor Tate Reeves, the State Office of Emergency Management, has revised the number of dead from 25 to 21. FEMA says preliminary assessments show 313 structures in Mississippi were destroyed and more than 1,000 were affected in some way. Fox Corp has donated $1 million to the victims of the tornadoes. If you would like to donate, please visit redcross.org/FoxForward. A federal judge has ruled that former Vice President Mike Pence has to testify before a grand jury in the federal investigation into efforts by former President Trump and his allies to overturn the 2020 election. America is listening to Fox News.
From the host of the popular podcast, The Only One in the Room, Stash by Laura Cathcart Robbins is a propulsive and vivid memoir about the journey to sobriety and self-love amidst addiction, privilege, racism, and self-sabotage. Best-selling author Holly Whitaker calls it an irresistibly delicious story. And MacArthur Foundation fellow and best-selling author Kiese Lehman says Stash is emotionally riveting. Buy Stash by Laura Cathcart Robbins now, wherever books are sold.
There's a crackdown on New York City shops illegally selling marijuana products.
We got the chance yesterday to ride along with the Sheriff's Department as they went after these nearly 1,400 stores that have been told by the community for potentially selling marijuana illegally. Since the task force started in November, there have been over $10 million worth of assets seized and 35 arrests. Now, marijuana is legal in New York City, but the thing is there are only 4 legal dispensaries located in New York, and there are 1,400 shops that have been given these warnings from the community that they might be selling tobacco products illegally or marijuana illegally, and the Sheriff's Task Force is making their way through that long list.
Fox Business's Madison Allworth in New York City. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says police need more power from the state government to make a bigger difference. Apple is getting into the buy now, pay later space with a few tweaks, including no option to pay with a credit card. The company will roll out the product in some consumers this spring, and it'll begin reporting the loans to credit bureaus in the fall. Since the start of the pandemic, the option to buy now, pay later has skyrocketed in popularity, especially among young and low-income consumers who may not have ready access to traditional credit. It appears there are two bids in place to purchase the NFL's Washington Commanders for a record-setting amount.
The bid for $6 billion being finalized from a group led by Josh Harris, the current majority owner of the NBA's Philadelphia 76ers and the NHL's New Jersey Devils. Also featured in that group, Basketball Hall of Famer Magic Johnson. The second bid for the Commanders also reaching that record $6 billion price tag, coming from Canadian billionaire Steve Apostolopoulos. Current Commanders owner Dan Snyder must first accept an offer, then submit the bidder's name to the NFL for approval. 3/4 of the league's owners would need to approve any sale. Snyder led a group that purchased the Washington franchise back in 1999 for $800 million.
Fox's Matt Napolitano. I'm Lee Silasera. This is Fox News.
The all-new Chevy Colorado is made for more. Stacked with the latest in-vehicle technologies like a class-leading 11-inch diagonal center touchscreen and an extra-large wireless charging pad. Plus, it features wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to make staying connected easy wherever your adventure takes you. Chevy Colorado, made for more. Learn more at Chevrolet.com/truck/Colorado. Claims based on latest competitive data.
Welcome back, Southern Liberty. Appreciate y'all coming through. We're talking about optimism and pessimism. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you subscribe to this show. Make sure you share this show. I don't matter what social media you share it on. I could care less. But make sure you share it. All that good stuff. Share it with your friends. All that good stuff. Make sure if you're not part of the Southern Liberty family on Patreon, make sure you go over and do that. Patreon.com/TOLM, or you can go to my website, RoderickThreets.com. The link to Patreon is there. You can go there and do that whole thing too. I love y'all, appreciate y'all in South Florida, Southeast Georgia, good old state of Utah, and around the world, people around the world, and all my internet listeners. Gotta love y'all too. Again, we're talking about optimism, pessimism, and all that good stuff. And I wanted to ask Ms. Val a question, but I was gonna preface it with this audio before I ask her the question. So y'all put your thinking caps on and listen for the context clues.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Oh no, what happened? What happened? And y'all just listen to my man Rizza Islam and what he says here. Just y'all listen to what he says.
Please and thank you. For those of you who open your mouth and you think you know what you're talking about because you have your master's degree. Ooh. You don't understand psychology. You have your master's degree. That's why his name is first and above your name on that piece of paper. Because that means you have successfully been indoctrinated into his way of thinking. That's why psychology is a prerequisite in most of your curriculum classes. Because I need to make sure before this, or he gets access to this area, he needs to put my mind in his head and remove his own. So he ain't gonna think for himself before I put my name and stamp him as an approved, or he who is now a worker and not a thinker. Shout out to John D. Rockefeller.
Oh boy,
that's crazy. Now, when we put that in context, now I played that for a reason, right? Because there is a bit of truth to that, right?
Yeah, there is.
Right. So now I want to ask this question, right? Here's the question that needs to be asked. Why are doctorates in education so coveted?
Well, doctorates of education coveted.
Yeah. Look, Joe Biden, the doctorate in education. Right? What's the Secretary of Education? He's a doctor in education, right? His undersecretary has a doctorate in education. Everybody that is like upper level, like say in the Department of Education, all have doctorates in education. All of them.
But what form of education?
That's the question. Right? Because
What does that mean?
Because that's the question, right? Going back to what Riza just said, right? You have to take psychology, right, to make sure that what they're going to program you is going to fit.
Oh.
Ah.
I see. You have to be programmed properly. You know, that's really backward thinking. I mean, logically. Let's go to that logical place.
Yeah, let's go.
If somebody wanted you to take a class in psychology, it's so that you could understand human people a little better.
Right.
Or if you take statistical psychology, you could understand how to do experiments. And utilize that information to carry over into human beings. It has nothing to do with being programmed by other people, by learning to be a slave.
Right.
What? That's just weird.
It is weird, and that's why if you have a doctorate in education, or you see someone and I just started noticing this the last couple of years that has a D.ed after their name. Yeah. I'm like, you're part of that agenda that is putting all this nonsense into our schools. Right? You're the people that are running the teachers' unions. You're the administrators, the principals in these schools, because you have a doctor of ed, right? And the teachers are just following the leads of the principals.
You know, it's so funny. Just the other night, I was saying to Bruce, when I first went up to State University in Buffalo, I enrolled in the teacher's education system. And it didn't take me a week. And I said, I think I'm out of here. I hated it. I mean, it was a week that I just sat there and said, this is stupid. And I'm not putting down teachers. I'm just saying for me. I said, this is just not my cup of tea. And I was already taking all the psych classes, and I was already involved in the music department, all as electives. And I went to the dean and I said, got to get me out of here. This is not for me. And he said, well, you're lucky. It's just under a week. You can switch your program. And I switched right into the psych department, and I got out of there because I sat there and exactly thought what you were just saying. I said, they're just sitting here trying to tell me what I have to do and the way I have to do it. And this is not going in real well. I saw something, and I was young. I mean, I saw something that just didn't fit who I was. Because I knew I was a warrior. I was a fighter. I wasn't going to just sit there and learn how to teach children what they were telling me I had to teach them and how I had to, and what I had. I said, no, this is not for me.
Right.
So it's very interesting that all of these people you're noticing got their doctorates in education.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've been educated.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. They went to a public school, right? Remember, let's keep this all the way, let's keep it consistent, right? They went to a public university that is funded by who? The Department of Education of the United States.
Right. Bad news.
So right there, you're already behind. You already got 2 strikes behind the 8 ball. And then you've already borrowed money, right? You've borrowed money from that same federal system that's funding the college. So now, strike 3, you're pinned in, right? So now, after explaining that paradigm, let's think about all these useless degrees that the government has propped that said this would be great for you, and now these people are slaves to the system, embarking about they can't get a job because they have a college degree, because again they were indoctrinated with the masters in gender studies. They were indoctrinated to have you thinking that gender is not cohesive with sex.
That's right.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So now they came out of the colleges all ready to roll. I know my Marxism, and I'm going to teach these little Marxists how to be Marxists. And now I know how to do this, and I get it.
What we're doing. Yep, and that's exactly what they've been doing. How many Antifa activists have been caught teaching in schools?
Oh, and how many of them went to Harvard and Yale and got Solinsky'd, right? I mean, this is real stuff. They all went to Harvard. They all went to Yale. They all went to Harvard. They all went to Yale. Look at all of our politicians. It's almost all the same. All the same.
Well, look at our Supreme Court justices. All of them either went to Harvard or Yale or Georgetown.
Yeah. What the hell is going on?
And you know what? Here's the thing. And here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. This is why. And this is just me spitballing an opinion.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that's why the left was asked to go after Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh as hard as he did, because they did not go to an Ivy League law school. It wasn't in fact they were conservative. Think about this, because all the justices on the court, they went to a Ivy League law school. All of them did,
right?
Except for Amy Coney Barrett and and Kavanaugh. Put that in your tea. Put that tea bag in your hot water and sip on that a little bit. You know what I mean?
Listen, it's all elitism. The whole thing. The whole thing is about being part of the elite system. And being a part of the elite system is the CCP and the globalists' front door into taking over our country.
Yep.
If these elitists and super smart intellectuals could see what is happening, they're being used. They are actually the slaves that were created to open the doors wide open for communism, fascism, and the world takeover.
Yep.
Thank you, elitists. We really appreciate the work you've been doing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But we must remain optimistic, right? Our common sense, and you have a college degree like I do, right?
Yeah.
We didn't turn out that way.
No.
We didn't turn out that way, but we weren't the pick-me's either. We weren't the pick-me's.
No, and we're going to have a very hard time being pygmies. We're going to have a very hard time being slaves. We're not going to be good slaves, and that's why they want to get rid of us.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
They'll get rid of us first. Then the elites will go next. Only they don't realize it.
Right. That's right. Because it's the top 1,000% that wants to rule the world. And that top 1,000% of the world are the Klaus Schwabs.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
Right. They're the Mohammed bin Salmans of the world. Right.
That's right. That's right. I heard Schwab having or was it Harari? I don't remember which one was having a conversation with Gigi from China.
Harari,
and
yeah.
they were both talking. Yeah, they were both talking together about. There was a translator, obviously, because I don't understand Chinese, although it may be something we're going to have to learn. They were just talking about how together they're going to rule the world. I mean, it was nefarious conversation. I turned it off. I think Michael Flynn was giving it. I said, you know what? This doesn't serve me. And I think that that's important sometimes when you get into listening to something that is so negative and so disturbing. It's better for you to just say, you know what? I'm aware of the really negative side of this, but it's not good for me right now to listen to this. It's really okay to do that. And I think that that's important. You know, we're here for a reason. And the reason is, and I was going to bring this up, but I think we need to go from tears to anger. I've always talked about anger is probably one of the best fuels we have under our feet.
Agreed.
It's not oil, it's not gas, it's anger. Anger drives us to solve things we might not have solved if we weren't angry. And I think that, you know, we're going to fight the darkness with the light because our anger is lit up. We're on fire now. And, you know, we're picking up the spiritual stones and we're throwing back now. We're hitting them back. And that's really what needs to happen. So we have to protect ourselves as well from extreme negativity that affects us every day.
Correct.
Sometimes it's time to turn it off and say, okay, I've had enough. I need to just go do something else, and I'll get back to other stuff. I'm allowed to change my mind. We don't have to listen to everything. We don't have to see all the disgusting shows they're putting on for little children. We don't have to see the evil that they're doing. We know it's there. We know how bad it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's bad.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. I mean, I mean,
and it's also,
Go ahead. You're good.
No, I was just going to say it's also, you know, one of the things we're looking at as well is protecting, you know, the children. And I so mind these teachers that on one hand say they're going to protect children, and on the other hand, they're not only vaccinating them, but they're surgically changing them and feeding them all these poisonous hormones and really destroying them mind, body, and soul.
Yes.
So how can we ever pay attention to what teachers have to say? Listen, the best thing parents can do on a spiritual level is get their kids out of the school system. Just get them out, homeschool them, do whatever you have to do, join forces with other parents, do it all together so that maybe one day a week you have to teach, but you got to save your children from this monstrous system of what they're calling education. If you don't see what's happening to your children, you are in big trouble.
Yeah.
You're about to find out something horrible. So I would venture forward that our medical system, which is Rothschild founded, one of the greatest elites, right? The cabal, they make up stories. They manufacture diseases for us. This is what we're looking at. This is what we've seen on stage with bright lights now.
Yep.
The creation of COVID and vaccines with AIDS, hormones, the whole 9 yards. They've killed more women with hormones than we could ever imagine. They're destroying. I read an article in the Epoch Times today about osteoporosis. I mean, we all know what that is. It's a bone disease. As you get older, your bones thin out. But they turned it into a disease that doesn't exist. It's normal. That's what happens as you age. And they have women and men on all these concocted formulas that are hurting them and killing them faster than anything else. So we need to step back and look at all of this now. We're being lied to. We're being tricked. into big pharma and the World Health Organization, and let's step out of it together and let's see what we can do. And you know, God gave us this ability to have critical thinking, and let's use it right now, today.
I think a lot of us, you know, that were mad at this whole thing and seen the whole thing happen, and you know, we preached, cried, stomped, whole 9 yards to get people to wake up to what's actually been happening. And a lot of folks that listen to us and other you know, liberty-minded people are starting to come out of the fog now. They're starting to see that the fog is real, that they were under. And now they're mad. Yeah. Now they're raging mad.
And they should be. And that anger is the fuel. We were just talking about that. That anger is the best fuel as human beings we could ever have. It's what fought in World War I, World War II. It's what fought in every revolution we've ever had. It's anger. That's our tool.
It has. Yes, it has. We got to roll the carpet out, Miss Val. Thank you. I appreciate you as always. Coming through as always. I appreciate everybody that came through this evening, did the thing, listened to us, whatever. Make sure you guys stop back by here on Friday, 9:30 Eastern. Fired Up Friday. We're gonna talk about a couple things, or two or three. So enjoy the rest of your week. Make sure you check out the Patreon for news dropping out of there. Patreon.com/TOLM, or go to my website, RoderickThrees.com. Until next time, life, love, liberty, and happiness. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Southern Liberty Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media. Subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.bpmg.us, or leave a rating and review on iTunes. To catch all the latest from Roderick, you can follow him on social media at manofjustice007. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.